Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This meeting of online presenters has now begun. Guests, please note that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 Toastmasters official speeches, or alternatively, if you have substantial relevant presentation experience, you may apply for membership after demonstrating your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to approval by the members of our club. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role if you have one. Right-click and select Rename to do so. We have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Also, please note that we will be recording the meeting. Your video and audio contribution may be used for club marketing purposes. Also, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Please welcome our club president, DTM. Our president is not here.
You can introduce
David.
me as the presiding officer in the absence of our president. Dr. Andy Byrne is recovering from some surgery, so we all wish him well. I know he's on the mend, but I can see why he might not be here tonight. He might be enjoying the opiates rather than trying to recover from them at the moment. But with that, welcome everybody. It's good to see Roxanne, even though she said she'd only be sort of kind of here, but and Dominique, I think, has visited with us a few times. Wonderful to see her back. With that, let me introduce our Toastmaster of the day, Kim Leeming, Kim Leeming, who will take us through a wonderful meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President of the Day, David Carr, fellow Toastmasters and dear guests. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's online presenters meeting. The theme for tonight's meeting is subliminal messaging and advertising. Subliminal messaging is the idea that people can subconsciously be influenced by messaging that they are unaware of. To use this form of influencing to sell products, services, or ideas is what we think of as subliminal advertising. The first time we heard the phrase subliminal messaging was in 1957 from a market researcher named James Vickery. He spliced in drink Coke and eat popcorn into the reel of a movie at a drive-in theater. He reported that as a result, there was a big uptick in the sales of both Coke and popcorn. They also used subliminal advertising to sell candy. And by gum, it worked. However, it was later discovered that not only was this experiment self-reported and not scientific, it was also a complete hoax. However, it's relevant because it introduced the concept of subliminal advertising into the public lexicon. It made everyone afraid that advertisers were controlling their brains. For me, Blondini, that was a good thing. Someone has to control it. Lawmakers even passed laws to prevent advertisers from using these subliminal messages in their commercials. But apparently, these laws haven't stopped advertisers from using this illegal advertising techniques. The whole question about whether or not subliminal messaging actually works is complicated because there are so many different types of alleged subliminal messages. There are sub-audio messages where something is very quietly playing in the background, not quite loud enough for us to notice. For example, we might want to try softly playing a message like, join online presenters during our meetings. That might not be a bad idea. There are also sub-visual messages. These are images or words that are flashed so fast that the conscious mind can't read it. But some part of the brain seems to pick up an impression from the embedded messages. Tonight, I'd like to test this theory of subliminal messaging here at Online Presenters. Andre has agreed to volunteer for this fun experiment. Andre, could you please unmute? And David, could you please bring Andre onto the screen with me? And then we'll get started.
Kim, before we proceed, do I need to make sure that my will is in order?
I think you're safe on this one, but I am going to be influencing you, which could continue. I don't know how long. Oh, here we are. Okay, so this is, hello, Andre. Thank you so much for volunteering. This experiment is going to be done with one and only one playing card. To be sure that I can't touch it, I have selected a card, folded it up, and placed it in this little box, which I'll leave over here in full view at all times. Now the fun begins. Andre, I'm going to use subliminal messaging along with Blondini's psychotic abilities, I think that's psychological abilities, to influence your subconscious mind. Are you ready? Good. To begin, I'd like to ask you a few questions to get an idea of how your mind works. First, do you prefer tea or coffee?
Both, please.
Okay, that's very interesting. Secondly, what animal do you see?
I see actually both. It's a duck and a hare at the same time.
It is. There is a rabbit. There is a duck. Fascinating. Next, which do you prefer? The red circle or the black square?
Black square, please.
Black square. Again, fascinating. You know why? People who like to drink both tea and coffee and who see both the animals usually go with the black square. So you chose black. So we have the big spade and the little itty bitty club. So maybe I'm using psychological influence or subliminal psychotics, again, psychology, to influence your decision. But which would you like to go with? The big spade or the little club?
Can I let you choose, Kim, for me, please? Because I'm getting a bit worried with all them answers. Can you pick one?
I'm trying to send messages to you to influence your decision. So I'm feeling like you chose spades. Would you like to change your mind?
I would go for the big spade, yes.
Okay. So with the big spades, we have the even numbers and the odd numbers. Which one would you like?
I like even numbers, please.
Okay. So with the even numbers, you have the choice of the 2, the 4, the 6, the 8, the 10, or the queen. Which would you like?
Number 10, please.
Number 10. Do you know your reason for choosing the 10?
I'm guessing you're sending me some kind of subliminal messages.
Maybe, but I know the exact answer because I'm Blondini. Okay, so this box has been here the whole time. I have not touched that box. So you can see that there's only one card in it. So let's take a look at what you chose. So you chose a black card. You chose a spade. You chose the 10 of spades. Great job, Andre. You received all of my subliminal messages. Thank you.
No way.
Please take your bow for a job well done.
Wow. Well done, Kim. Wow. Am I
Are
still
you?
sane? Am I still sane? Do I look all right?
So you're going to start seeing all these messages for the next week. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so let's get started with the meeting. Our meetings consist of 3 main parts. The first is actually, it's not the tip of the day because we're not doing that today. The first part is going to be the prepared speeches, of course. This is where people present a speech for a particular project from their pathway. The third part, or second, is going to be the table topics. This is the impromptu speaking part of the meeting where we practice speaking off the cuff. Often these impromptu speeches give us hilarious results. And the final part of the meeting is the evaluation part of the meeting. Each speaker will receive an evaluation, and this is a great opportunity for all of us to learn from the feedback each speaker receives. The general evaluator will also give us an overall meeting evaluation. It may seem like the Toastmaster today runs the show, but it's actually a team effort. We now interrupt the online presenters meeting with a news brief. The volunteers for tonight have been announced. I will now introduce them. They will each have 1 minute to describe their role for tonight's meeting. Our timer for tonight is Karthika Devi. Anyway, Karthika, would you please tell us your duties as timer tonight? And I'm so sorry about butchering your name.
That's actually me. It's me. Blondini,
Oh,
it's me.
that's right. We switched it up to Evie. I can say your name, Evie. Evie, can you please describe your duties tonight as timer?
I certainly can, Blondini. Thank you so much for having me here. So the timer's role is very important because part of Toastmasters is not only the content of our speech, but also the flow and fitting it into the time that we have. Not talking too much, not talking too little, but talking just enough so that we keep everybody engaged and not boring them in the process. So my role is to time our speeches and give a visual representation of the time each speech is taking. I've got some creative timing in speeches tonight that I will do my very best to give an accurate report on. And that about sums up the timer's report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Evie. Next up is our counter, Carolina Ramirez. Carolina, could you please describe your role for tonight?
Hello, Blondini. Yes, sure. My role as a counter is to count the grants for prepared speakers and impromptu speakers. And at the end of the meeting, I will give you my report. Back to you.
Thank you, Carolina. Next up, we have our grammarian. Blondini, could you please tell us what your role is tonight as grammarian? Most certainly. Tonight, I will be watching for your use of the English language as well as the word of the day. Today's word of the day is not listed correctly. Oh, it is. I'm going to have to come back to you with the word of the day. It's subconscious, and it's pretty much the way Blondini lives life, which is to not really know what's going on, and it's happening underneath and not in your actual consciousness. And so I will be looking for all those good things and giving a report at the end. Back to you, Toastmaster of the Day, Kim. Thank you. Next up, we have our watcher. Yes, Jim Barber. Jim, could you please tell us about your role for tonight?
With pleasure, Madam Psychotic Blondini, excuse me. As the watcher this evening, I'm going to be basically the visual grammarian. I'm going to be keeping an eye on everybody's visual presence at the meeting. I'm going to be looking at, just lost my audio. I'm going to be looking at your lighting, at your framing in the picture, at the way you are properly centered and all that sort of thing. I'm going to be watching you. It would be illegal in most places, but here we not only make it legal, we make it an official part of the meeting. That's it. I'm a stalker. Back to you, Blondini.
Thank you for describing your duties as watcher tonight. Next up, we have our chat monitor. Our chat monitor for tonight is David Carr. David, Could you please describe your roles for tonight as chat monitor?
Okay, sure. Chat monitor, also vote counter, so I might as well introduce them both at the same time. I will be watching what's going on in the chat. Anything concerning, anything interesting, I will report at appropriate times, mostly at the end of the meeting. But if something is going horribly wrong and people are posting about it in the chat, I'll let you know. I did post the word of the day definition just a moment ago, and as we get around to votes, I'll be posting links in the chat that you can click on to vote. Guests are welcome to vote as well.
Thank you, David. We now move on to the prepared speeches portion of the meeting. Our first speaker for tonight is Joni-Renee Laidlaw. Joni's speech is titled Logical Logistics, Tech for Toastmasters, Ideas in Action, Yoodli. This is from Leadership Development Level 5, Demonstrating Expertise, DTM Project Speech 2. DTM Joni Laidlaw will be doing her second speech of her Distinguished Toastmasters project. She has created a plan, gained a guidance committee, as well as project implementation team. She has given her first speech and will now give a speech to educate what she has achieved. Please welcome DTM Joni Laidlaw. Logical Logistics Tech for Toastmasters Ideas in Action, Yoodli.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. The adorable Blondini, but just a correction. It's logical logistics tech for it could be trademark. It could be Toastmasters.
Joni, we're not hearing you very well. Seems like there's something with your audio.
Better? Hearing me now?
Better, I think, yeah.
All right, awesome. Whenever you go about doing a presentation, especially with software, most people tend to appeal to the part of the brain that learns things. I mean, after all, if I say to you what 2 + 2, automatically you're going to go 4, right? Nobody ever trained 1, 2 + 1, 2 is 1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of us rely on memory. When I decided to train on any topic, the thought was, no, we will appeal to the part of the brain that's logical, the part of the brain that would figure it out on its own. I mean, after all, especially in the online space, things change, they evolve, they grow. But most of us get stuck on, but nobody told you the answer. From that, the logical logistics tech for Toastmasters was born. Tech for TX, trademark Toastmasters. Now, with time, Yoodli came in the picture. Now, let me just give you an idea of my team. For saddling both my guidance and execution part of the team was Dominic Barnett. Now, I know we met my guidance committee the first time around, but these are the persons who put in the work to assist me in helping to move it forward as opposed to the giants with the ideas who helped me to formulate. Also in promotion and design, I got assisted by Emily Lubin. But on the day, there was so much to train. This was, after all, brand new software and a brand new concept nobody had any idea about. As such, I did invite the head of product for Yoodli. I think those of us here at Online Presenters have already met Sharan as well. And Sharan Jangiani did a presentation for us on how to utilize Yoodli. But remember, the appeal was for the part of the brain that would figure it out. And how do we do that? Subliminally, subconsciously maybe, we make connection. How did I go about doing that? We have what we're used to in club meetings. We already have a grammarian. You're still not hearing me? All right, I'm seeing that David is saying he's not hearing. You're not here. You're still not hearing?
It's just a little faint, that's all, but I don't know whether there's something that you connect differently or I think you should probably just keep going.
All right, is that better?
I think that's a little
Okay,
better.
awesome. Now, yeah, okay. Now, we already have a grammarian and our counsel, speech evaluator. We already know these things exist and we have an idea of how they work. My idea was to connect both. And how did I do that? Well, I compared man and machine. Was it a bit subliminal? Was it a bit on the subconscious level? Maybe, but at least I did have help. I had help from author and TEDx speaker, say that 3 times fast, Peter Karaganaki. He did the human part. He evaluated to demonstrate what we were all used to, how we would go about utilizing our normal Toastmasters experience. In order to evaluate, we do need people to evaluate. Unfortunately, some brave souls stepped forward. Region 8 advisor, Shirley Daly, distinguished Toastmaster, because I was not going to make it easy on Yoodli, as well as Jeffrey Azan, who is also a distinguished Toastmaster, as well as a business consultant, development coach, and author. This allowed for the challenge of evaluation. But to let everybody connect how it would assist each individual, I also invited an amateur speaker doing a level 2 project. After all, it's not just how distinguished Toastmasters can be assisted, but how everyone can. Now that I had my team in place for the evaluation section, what else could I appeal to get people to utilize Yoodli? And I remember, I always say this phrase, we learn best in moments of enjoyment. The founder, Ralph Smedley, said that I always looked at it as an important view when utilizing any form of training. Unfortunately for me, I got an in-house games master. We all know Sunny Fridge, and she came through and assisted me in making sure that everyone had fun while they learned. What did I learn from all of this? I am not the only one who does not like to write things down. I was supposed to bring back stats. I had a poll. I launched it. I was prepared. We were getting the statistics on how did we evolve. 122 individual participants showed up. However, only 22 people filled out the form. I thought after the fact, maybe others would do it considering if I send it out after. No, I was less successful. So what did I learn from that part? I learned that if I want statistics, achieving them via a poll or required feedback, even in the meeting, is not always successful. And I now understand that look of grimace whenever people launch the polls and we hear, everyone, nobody's filling out the poll. Please, please, can you continue? I figure what I need to do is learn a subliminal or subconscious way to prod people to do that. Overall, though, with 122 individual respondents, plus additional persons joining in from all over the world, I do believe it was a successful introduction. This is part 1 of my speech. This was my DTM project. my distinguished Toastmasters 2.0, where the logical logistics tech for TM idea in action was to introduce Yoodli. From there, it allowed me to take Yoodli all over the world, to the point that it needs a second speech as follow-up to find out where in the world went Joni Laidlaw. Do I think it was a success? Yes. Do I think I need to learn how to get people to fill out a form? Definitely. Statistics are difficult to obtain if people do not input information. But I did learn something. I learned that when it came to engagement on the day, seeing the reaction and how many people did download Yoodli, I know this because I got a count, and actually used it as at the training, I personally think it was a success. I might not have figures, and I might not be able to say of 122 people, there was a 76% increase in the knowledge of Yoodli. But what I can say is that based on the day, I had happy, educated, and entertained person for Yoodli and in learning how to have ideas in action. Back to you, our Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Joni. Great job. I want to tell you, when you started and you said that everyone, when they hear 2 + 2, they automatically got 4. Well, not for Blondie. Okay, our second speaker for tonight is Graham Cairns. Graham's speech is titled Hip Pocket Speeches. This is from Engaging Humor, Level 4, Building Skills. The power of humor in an impromptu speech. One of the most valuable tools a speaker can have is a set of hip pocket speeches, presentations that are sitting in the back pocket, ready to be brought out at a moment's notice. In this presentation, Graham Cairns will use a tool that Toastmasters provides in the Engaging Humor pathway and demonstrate how that resource gives us a place to store and develop those speeches. Then he will ask you to select 2 of the 16 speeches, and he will deliver them as impromptu presentations. Please welcome Graham Cairns with his speech. Whatever I said it was, I am so sorry.
Hip pocket speeches. Thank you, Madam.
No, hip pocket speeches, I even knew that. Thank you, Graham.
You subliminally wanted me to say it out loud. I know, I can tell. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, before I begin, a quick question, if I may. Who here has started or completed the Engaging Humor path? About 3 of us. If you've done that path, if you haven't done that path, can I suggest you do so? Because there are, I mean, who here is scared of the thought of doing humorous speeches? They think, I'm not funny. Yeah, I'm like that. There are some really, really useful tools in this path. And I'm going to talk about one of them. And one of those is in the level 4 of this path, there is what's called a story collection tool. The idea is, you know how, no, it's actually in level 2, not level 4. You know how when you have to do my leadership style in a leadership path, or my communication style in, well, this one is all about learning your sense of humor and your humor style, and it gives you a resource which is particularly useful. Now, I'm going to show you, you can see now, I hope, the leadership, the story collection. You can see this on the screen in front of me, it's large enough. Toastmasters asks you to think about collections of stories, a collection of stories about when I was first married, a collection of stories about journalism highs and lows, a collection of stories about teaching and lecturing, and a collection of stories about Toastmasters leadership. Those are 4 collections that I have put together for this exercise. And in each of those, I've come up with 4 stories that I can tell. I can tell the story of Shirley in the canoe, how my wife got stuck in a kayak and we all laughed at her. Lyndall saying, don't ask me how I feel. Falling asleep at my son's birth because I'd been working all night before my wife went into labor, and I literally fell asleep counting contractions. Or our wedding, which was a unique experience. I could talk about teaching and lecturing, the light bulb moment when students learn something, the time I helped a student write a story about weaponized duck doo-doo, no smoking 2 decades on, and how I learned how long I'd been teaching, or being the editor of an online student newspaper the morning after the 2 Towers. I could talk about Toastmasters leadership and competition speaking and winning speech contests at district level, but never winning the one that I really want to win, or joining a club and getting elected as president within a couple of weeks. I suspect that's a shared experience that some here will have. Meeting members of online clubs in person around the world. These are all just various stories that I have added into my story collection. So that's the background. What I'm now going to ask is, can I ask from the members, the members of the audience, just turn your microphone on and give me story collection 1, 2, 3, or 4. First in, best dressed.
4.
4, okay. Story collection 4, Toastmasters leadership. And from this, which of those 4 stories, the helium arm, competition speaking, join a club and get elected, or friends around the world? 1, 2, 3, or 4. Jim, you can say.
4.
4. Okay, friends around the world. So for a period of 2 to 3 minutes, a short story on meeting Toastmasters around the world. I am, as you know, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, a member of an online club, this one. But what you may not know is that I am in fact a member of 4 clubs which meet online or in a hybrid sense. 2 of those clubs are based in Australia, but 2 of them are based overseas. In this case, the Online Presenters Club is based out of Florida, but really it's an international group. And there is another, Witty Storytellers Online, which is based in London. And out of that club, I have met 3 of the current 21 members in their own countries. I have met the foundation president of that club in London, Julie Kurtish. Some of you may know Julie. She is the grande dame of online clubs. And Julie showed my wife and I around London. She made us feel most welcome. She even invited me to one of her Toastmasters clubs in London, which she couldn't get to, but she sent me to in any case. It was good fun. So I met Julie while we're in London. When I was in Oregon, 2 members of that club live in country Oregon, and I met them. In fact, I completely stuffed up. I had arranged to stay in their hometown, I thought. Turns out where I made the booking was 3 hours away from where they were, and I had to drive past them to get to our accommodation, then back to them to meet them, and then back up to get to my accommodation again. It was an interesting experience. But the thing I will say about this is, if you are a member of an online club, if you are a member of an online organization, take the opportunity when you can, not only to meet your fellow members online, and I really enjoy meeting all of the fellow members here online in our meetings, but if you get the chance to travel to where they live, make sure that you try and arrange a time to meet them. I, for example, am intending to get to the United States again next year. My daughter lives in the United States. She's now moved to Washington, D.C. on the East Coast, which means that I will be going to the East Coast of the United States, and I will therefore be much closer to fellow members of this club in Florida than I would be if I were only going to Portland, Oregon, where she was living until a few months ago. So do you reckon that I'm not going to take the opportunity to meet up with some of the Floridians when I get to the United States? You can bet your bottom dollar that I am going to, because when you get the chance to meet fellow Toastmasters, when you get the chance to meet fellow club members, when you get the chance to meet colleagues in your work environment that you would not normally do, you really should take that opportunity. It is a great way to learn, to grow, and to make even better friends. Madam Toastmaster, that's the first speech. Now, I'm going to again ask for somebody to name 1, 2, 3, or 4. Who can I ask? Andre, 1, 2, 3, or 4?
1.
1. Okay, so one is going to be, let me do a share screen, Young Married Life. I'm going to share that screen again so that you can all see that I am not cheating here. And now, out of Young Married Life, can I get a 1, 2, 3, or 4 from, I don't know, anyone at all?
2, please.
2, Lyndall, Don't Ask How I Feel. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, I love my daughter more than life itself. She's probably, well, there are 2 women in my life that I love more than I can possibly say. One is my wife, the other is my daughter. And I genuinely, I would give my life for Lyndall, but sometimes I would give her away to the first passing stranger. My daughter, I swear, hit puberty at about age 8. And from age 8 to about 13, she was a difficult child. She was, in fact, my child. She was all the things about me that I like, but all the things about me that I don't like, Lyndall shares. And one of the things about Lyndall is that she was a difficult child to reach, not to control, because we don't believe in controlling our children, but to guide and to have grow into a beautiful, strong adult, which, by the way, she has. And I have to say that now. But when Lyndall was, I don't know, probably 6 or 7, there was a new parenting program that was being trialed in Australia. It's now gone worldwide. It's called the Triple P program, the Positive Parenting Program. And it is a way of interacting with your children, giving them the space to grow, giving them the space to learn, but also letting them know that they are in a safe environment, that they can make mistakes and that you will not discard them, or, I mean, you may offer them guidance, but you won't criticize. Part of it is, of course, trying to find out how your child is actually feeling about the things that you are saying. Now, my wife and I were asked to take part in this positive parenting program, which, as I say, was being trialled when Lyndall was, well, in primary school. And we thought we were doing all right until the day that Lyndall told us that we weren't. You see, one of the things that you do is that you, as I say, try to work out how your child is actually feeling about things so that you actually keep the lines of communication open. And it was when something had gone wrong and Shirley was sitting down with Lyndall, and Shirley leaned in and said, "So, Lyndall," and at that point, Lyndall burst into these great heaving sobs and says, "Don't ask me how I feel." And that was the point at which we knew we might be pushing this just a little too hard. So we backed off a little. She backed off a little. We grew together. We had our differences. I'm still enormously proud of that girl, and I am enormously proud of the fact that we still ask her how she feels, but these days we're a little more circumspect about it. Madam Toastmaster. So that's the second of the speeches. The point that I make here today is not that they were great speeches, because I'm pretty sure they weren't, but that if you use that resource or any notebook in which you write down headings for topics and then individual topics, just one sentence for each of them, you will always have a swag of stories, a swag of speeches, a swag of presentations that are ready to be pulled out at a moment's notice. And if you have any aspirations to speaking professionally, if you have any aspirations to being a leader in your workplace, then having those hip pocket speeches ready to go, having those hip pocket presentations at your fingertips is a tool, a jewel beyond price. And that, I think, is my 10 minutes. So with that, I hand control back to the great Blondini, also our Toastmaster of the day, Kim Leeming. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Graham. What a wonderful and appropriate speech after the Toastmaster of the day, Blondini, asked if you could give a speech just a couple of hours ago. Glad you had that hip pocket speech ready. Thank you very much. Our timer for tonight is Evie Hartman. Evie, could you please give us a timer's report for the 2 speeches?
Yes, absolutely. Both of our speakers qualify, and I don't know if you can see it on my screen, but Joni came in right under 10 minutes at 9:56, and Graham did great with all three of his speeches, definitely coming within the time that he set for himself. So yes, that's the report for our speakers. All of them qualified. Both of them qualified.
Thank you, Evie. So if you could post that, that'd be great. And in the chat, and then if everyone could please take a moment to cast your vote for the best speaker of the day, that'd be great as well. Looks like David already posted the link to do so. And we now move on to the table topics. This is the impromptu speaking portion of the meeting. Tonight's table topic master is Carolina Ramirez. Please welcome Carolina.
Thank you, Blandini. Remember, for this section, you have between 1 and 2 minutes to answer the questions. The subconscious can be defined as the part of your mind that you're usually unaware of. And this is why sometimes professionals in marketing try to use it to sell some products. The first question: do you think you are easily persuaded to buy things after seeing or hearing an ad? This question goes to Andriy Smolenko.
Sorry, Madam Table Topics Master, could you repeat the question, please? I was so subliminally influenced by your speech that I need to make sure I've heard that correctly.
Do you think you are easily persuaded to buy things after seeing or hearing an ad?
Oh, yes, Madam Table Topics Master, I would be the guy who is easily persuaded to buy nice things that I like. For example, I like cider, and when I see advertisements of cider on TV or on the radio, boom, I know exactly what I need to do, and I have an excuse. I have a legitimate excuse to go and do it. And then again, I can have a chat with a friend of mine who is my neighbor, who likes cider as well, saying, look, it's Tuesday night, we're not supposed to be drinking, but we are drinking, and it's not our fault. It's subliminal message, advertising machine. They just want to squeeze every single penny out of the hardworking people in England. And we love it. And then Saturday night, I like gin and tonic. And somehow, miraculously, I find those advertisements, or they find me, gin and tonic. And I have another excuse. And then I can't say that I do it regularly. Perhaps I don't get enough those subliminal messages that I could hear. Perhaps they should do it more often, and that would be a beer or a nice rum cola, or I'll probably stick with stew for a while. So if I'm easily influenced by subliminal messages when they're convenient to me, oh yes, I am. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Andy. But you have to be aware that many of the products that are promoted can be harmful to your health. The next question is, do you agree with an advertising ban on cigarettes? And this question goes, I'm not sure if our guest, Jim Leeming, is there?
Okay, so Jim Leeming is my husband.
He
was actually coming on just to kind of help out with whether I was centered and if I was actually showing up on the screen. So Jim, I'm not sure. Do you want to take a table topics question?
Would you like to participate?
Jim, you're muted.
Well, I am her feedback loop, but what is your question again?
Do you agree with an advertising ban on cigarettes?
I'm not understanding what ban, one more time.
Do you agree with an advertising ban on cigarettes?
Yes, I do. If you don't mind to speak, subliminally or not, advertising is not good for young people, and I just don't think that tobacco is good for you. And it's about tobacco you mentioned, right? Yeah, I totally agree with the ban on tobacco and actually alcohol. So there's a long history in our family. Oh, am I speaking too much, Kim?
Not at all. I just don't agree with a ban on alcohol.
Oh, okay.
Continue.
Well, it wouldn't hurt for a ban, at least on advertising alcohol, which I thought was a question. No, I don't think there should be an abolition on alcohol, but I think that they should be careful about what they promote, whether it's pot, alcohol, or anything that affects your brain. I don't think we should promote it, subliminally or otherwise. So whether it's subliminal advertising, I come from a younger age, where we used to go to drive-in theaters and they would promote popcorn and Pepsi and all sorts of crazy stuff subliminally. And I don't agree with that either. But you know what? I like Coca-Cola, and I like popcorn too. And yeah, that's my feelings.
Thank you, Jim, for your answer.
There.
Next question. Some products are promoted as having many benefits, almost like they work miracles. Do you think advertising is a clever way of lying about products? This question goes to Jim Barber.
Yes, Madam Topics Master. Do I think that advertising is a clever way to lie about products? No, not necessarily. Not necessarily on the word clever. I think advertising is a way of lying about products. Absolutely. There's just no doubt about that. But are they clever? Sometimes they are. And I like the clever commercials. I may not approve of the product. I may not approve of what they do or anything like that, but I adore creativity. And so if they are clever, I'm going to watch the commercial. I'm going to love that. I'm not going to buy the product, but I'm going to adore the commercial. But do commercials lie about the products? Well, of course, that depends on your definition of lying. Lying is a matter if you tell the truth, but not the entire truth, or maybe you tell the truth, but it's mixed in with some other things. Now, of course, I'm giving you a good example right now of what weasel words are all about. And so is advertising lying? I would say almost by definition it is, because if they told you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about the product, you wouldn't buy whatever it is that they're advertising. You would go someplace else. So that's just the way the world works. It's not a subconscious thing. It's not a subconscious thing or anything like that. It's a matter of actually going through and looking at a commercial. They're a pack of lies. With any luck, they're creative. Madam Topics Master.
Thank you, Jim. The next question is difficult, I would say. Talking about the same, if we think about products with fake benefits or subliminal advertising, what regulations should be applied to adverts to protect consumers? David?
Regulations should be applied to advertising to protect consumers.
Yes.
You know, the thing that comes to my mind is kind of contrary to the spirit of the question, so you'll have to forgive me, but I'm thinking of the medication advertisements that we see, and they may be different the way they're aired where you are, Carolina, but in the US, they have to spend some portion of that time listing all the side effects, which usually include death. Death is likely, hemorrhaging, impotence. Everything is going to go wrong with your body if you take this drug. But look at all these happy people moseying around, enjoying life. You could be like them even though you're impotent and dead. So I'm trying to figure out what the advertising strategy is behind that. This is a case where regulation is in place to try and compel the people who are advertising drugs on television, and maybe that entire thing should be outlawed and you should just listen to your doctor. But aside from that, I think the strategy there is to beat us down and desensitize us to the fact that every medicine we take is certainly going to kill us. And so if they're all going to kill us, they're all on the same basic level playing field. And so you might as well pick the one that has the clever ad and tell your doctor that I definitely need this medicine that is certainly going to kill me. Madam Topics Master.
Thank you, David. I think that Graham said in the chat that he has been working in advertising. Yes? Okay, this question goes for you. Which companies produce the best ads and why? What do you think about that?
Madam Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, guests, the companies which produce the best ads versus the companies that produce the most effective ads is an interesting question. We spoke earlier about ads that are clever, ads that are creative, ads that make you go, wow. Budweiser and the ads that they ran during the Super Bowl some years ago with the horses and the little puppy and all, it made you feel wonderful. It made you feel warm. It made you feel all gooey inside. And did it sell any beer? Apparently not. And yet, you know, the ads that you really hate, the where do you get it ads, the ads where they are in your face, where they are really, really annoying, whether you like it or not, they sell product. Now, you might say, I will never buy from that company because they shout at me. You may say, I will never buy because this ad is on 4 times every ad break. But the thing is, you will buy because it creates what's called top of mind. When consumers are looking to buy a product, most of them go with whatever is at top of mind, the thing that they think of first. Now, it is possible to get so annoying with your ads that people will simply never buy your product. But I'm not sure that I've ever seen that happen. Some of the most annoying ads are those most effective ones. And yet some of the cleverest ads, I've seen ads that are genuinely heart-moving. Anybody who's been in England around Christmas will see the John Lewis ads and the ads for stores there, which really are 60-second, 90-second or 2-minute slice of life dramas that make you feel just so good. Whether they sell product or not is a question that I can't answer. They're the best ads. They're the cleverest ads. But the ads that sell products are the ones that annoy us, but get stuck in the back of our minds. A bit like an earworm listening to the radio. Madam Topics Master.
Thank you, Graham. Okay, this section is over. Please vote for your favorite, and thank you very much for your answers.
Can we check in with the timer, perhaps?
Yeah, yes, of course. Evie, are all the speakers qualified?
Yes, everybody qualified. Oh,
great.
Man. I had a really good answer for one of those.
Now you can vote for your favorite. Miss Toastmaster, back to you.
Thank you, Carolina, for some very, very fun table topics. And I have to give you a huge kudos. If you told me that you were going to get my husband to answer a table topics on this group, online presenters, I would have thought that you were drinking, smoking something, but thank you so much for doing that. Awesome job. Okay, next up is our general evaluator, our evaluation portion of the meeting. Our general evaluator tonight is Jim Barber. And Jim, just take it away and do the things that you always do. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Psychotic Toastmaster. This is the evaluation portion of the meeting, and in a moment, I will start with the evaluations of our prepared speakers this evening. However, before I do that, a couple of notes. First, I want to remind our evaluators and our timer that evaluation time is 2 to 3 minutes. Please stay within those time frames. And also, I want to mention that normally I would depend on my subconscious mind to prompt me to use the word of the day. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Oh, never mind. I already used it. Okay, let's move to our first evaluator this evening. Our first speaker was Joni Laidlaw, and our first evaluator this evening is Kritika Davi. I practiced this before. Venkataram. That's the closest I'm going to be able to get tonight. I apologize. I will work on it. Ventika, please take it away.
That's wonderful. That's
Really?
wonderful. You mentioned it 80% close of my name to be right, and I'm delighted about it because it's quite difficult to mention my name. It's Kritika Devi Venkataram. I come from India, where we practice and preach different religions and different languages. So it's quite difficult to understand the names or to give away the credential exactly. So let me start my evaluation. I'm first pleased to evaluate Yoni-Renee. So if I pronounce your name right, please pardon me if I don't do that. Toastmasters is a place where leaders are made. And I understand Yoni is one of the best leaders I have seen. It's because of the fact it doesn't matter where do you come from from any of the part of the world. What matters is where do you stand now and how do you take forward. Toastmasters is one place which gives you the opportunity to do that. And in this particular project, the DTM project 2, where you need to look for the problem that requires a solution in your community, listening to the opinions of your peers, your organization, or the community that you are involved in, and build a solution accordingly. By this particular project, I see like you have taken a topic of providing an idea in action for the logical logistic tech 4. The idea is brilliant to detail about the leaders, the different path honoring individuals. I definitely took my time to recollect about your speech and to relate with your topic. Logical logistic is a place where the warehouse places or a fulfillment place that distributes the procured goods to the destination. And you have taken your time to exactly distribute the skills that you have acquired to different aspects, like the way you have sit down your visualization, the way that you have spoken out, the words, the obvious usage of the words for your speech, and the expression that you have provided in your speech. There is an enormous or priceless amount of information that I can get from your speech, which is displayed in your, the scripts. I think I will take my time to recollect and also replay your speech again to get more information about the leaders that you have mentioned. And overall, your speech is extremely good, fantastic, I would say, and I give you hats on for your speech. Thank you. Over to you, Toastmaster Jim Barber.
Thank you, Kritika. Thank you. Great evaluation. And now, our second speaker this evening was Graham Cairns, speaking to us from tomorrow. Evaluating Graham is also, I think, by this point, also in tomorrow, might be. Is. Okay, I'm getting a nod there. Andrei Smolenko. So, that's it. Evaluating Graham, please help me welcome our evaluator, Andrei Smolenko. Andrei.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator, my fellow night presenters, and most importantly, Graham. What's a project? What's a success? I would like to tell you straight away. And from the engaging humor, level 4, and incorporating impromptu speaking with humor and giving to me a joy to listen, joy to learn, and joy to try to do exactly what you did about your pocket speeches. I really like the main message from your speech is about having those hip pocket speeches ready in case you need them. And we always need them. Just write them down. And in case you get stuck, in case you, for example, us today, you already have one ready. I really like the structure, introduction, 2 pocket speeches, impromptu, chosen by the members of audience, and conclusion. And I think you did it in time. The first speech about the friends around the world, you described how you would travel to see the clubs. Recommendation was really clear. You gave examples and with your energy as well. The one thing I would probably recommend to make it a little bit more humorous, as asking audience, would you like to see me on your doorstep? I would like to ask, for example, Carolina, would you like to see Graham knocking on your doorstep? Me. And I would like to ask Jim, would you like to see me in Florida? And just try to engage and get those, like, maybe not, Graham, sorry, I don't want to see you. Just getting a bit of that feedback. I think that would bring a little bit of spice into an excellently structured impromptu speech. Your second speech was about your daughter, the Lyndall, don't ask how I feel. Again, I could feel it in your style. I could see it in your eyes, the way you describe your daughter. And I think we all, once or twice, try to be that kind of parent would go, how do you feel? How do you really feel? Anyway, I'm not sure, maybe not all of you, but I do with my kids. And few times I got the same answer. You know what, Dad, just stop it. Just stop it. So the structure of the speech, again, was excellent. And one thing I would probably add to it, again, ask the audience, have you ever asked your child? Again and again and again. So build up to that moment. You could cream it a little bit more, just right at the top. And overall, again, was really strong speech that I enjoyed. And in conclusion, yes, have the hip pocket speeches ready. Graham, that was excellent. My pleasure to evaluate you. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you. Good job. Appreciate that. All right. Evie, as our timer, how did our 2 evaluators do?
They both did great and came within time. Kritika at 2:56 and Andre at 3:15. They both qualified.
Outstanding. Thank you, Evie. All right. And thank you for evaluators for coming in on time. I appreciate that. Would everybody please, it's already there. Vote for your preferred evaluator of the evening in the chat through David's magical voting system. And while you are casting your votes, I'm going to ask let's see, for the different reports, we're doing pretty good on, we're doing all right on time, but I'm still going to ask everybody to please keep your reports to under 1 minute, if you could, please. And I'm going to start with the watcher of the evening, who is me. And I'm going to keep my report incredibly short. Everybody looks great. Your lighting is great. Your framing is great. Your video presence in every case is just doing wonderfully. Congratulations. I expect nothing else from this club. You're great. I'm going to move beyond this to our counter this evening, Carolina Ramirez. Carolina, how did we do as the Wizard of Oz?
Thank you, Jim. In terms of grants, you did a great job. I only counted 1 for Kim, a couple of and for Graham, and 1 for Kritika. And we did a great job, to be honest. Back to you, Jim.
Thank you, Carolina. All right. Our chat monitor this evening is David Carr. David, can you take a break from counting votes for a moment to tell us how we did in the chat? Maybe he can't. Okay, he can.
Maybe he can. But I didn't see anything going too far wild in the chat. We did have some comments about the nature of advertising and what we think is good and bad about it. But other than that, nothing wild and crazy going on in the chat today.
That's quite all right. That was wonderful. Thank you very much, David. Appreciate that. And our grammarian this evening was the great Blondini herself. Blondini.
Thank you so much, Jim. So the word subliminal, like everybody pretty much said it, but the award does go to Andre, who said it like, I think at least 200 times. And on subconscious, we had Joni, Jim Barber, and Carolina, and maybe some others that I didn't catch. Graham, you can bet your bottom dollar that I'll be meeting up with fellow Toastmaster Floridians. Lovely sentiment, lovely use of the language to say it. Andre, we are drinking. It's not our fault. It's subliminal advertising. Good use of the English language in a very funny way. Carolina, yay. I already mentioned this, but kudos for getting my husband to answer a table topics question. I never thought he'd actually join a meeting, but he did answer a question. Jim Barber, weasel words. Love it. And if they told you the truth, no one would buy anything. Hilarious. Kind of says a lot about the whole advertising industry. David Carr, everything is going to go wrong with your body if you take this drug. And you need to go to your doctor and say, I need this medication that will kill me. Awesome. I always wonder about those commercials too. Graham, it made you feel all gooey inside, like that sentiment. Jim Barber, normally I'd rely on my subconscious mind to do the word of the day. Ha ha. Clever use of the word of the day. And back to you, Jim Barber, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day, and also grammarian, the great Blondini. Thank you very much. All right, it's time for my evaluation of the meeting. I'm going to keep this short. First of all, we were light tonight. That happens sometimes. We had a number of people who, for various reasons, could not be here. That happens. Special kudos, of course, to those people. I won't name names, but there are several people here tonight that had a legitimate reason not to show up, and they did anyway. Congratulations. I really appreciate everybody showing up. I want a special announcement, special kudos to Kim Leeming, who did a very entertaining Toastmaster of the Day presentation. Absolutely. I think that calls for a recognition. You did great, Kim. I know in the past sometimes you felt that you weren't doing what you expected to do. I think you knocked it out of the park tonight. Also, our table topics master, Carolina, a great set of table topics questions. So nicely done. Everybody, as I say, being here deserves commendations. Both of our evaluators were great. And again, I'm not going to pick on specific things, just more to lack of time than anything else. Kudos to everybody for being here. And that completes my portion of the evaluation. Before I return control to our Toastmaster of the Day, I'm going to ask our vote counter, David Carr, if he's had the opportunity to tally the votes and tell us who our winners are tonight.
As a matter of fact, I have. And so here they come. Table topics. Goes to Graham Cairns. Is that spelled right there? No, I think I messed that up. I'm sorry about that, Graham. I try and copy and paste, but I think I did that this time. And I do want to tell our guest, Jim Leeming, that he was actually close. You were in there. You were in the running. We don't usually break down exactly what the vote was.
Thank you.
Best evaluator for this evening was Krithika. And I'm working on the pronunciation, but copy and paste does allow me to spell things right. So that much at least should be good. And our best speaker for this evening was again Graham Cairns. Spelled right this time. Woo-hoo! All right. Congratulations, everybody. And Thanks for making this a great meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Vote Counter. And with that, I return control to the great psychotic Kim Leeming.
Thank you so much, Jim Barber. You always do such a great job as an evaluator. And when you mentioned that people had reasons to not be here, I'm thinking the fact that you have COVID right now is that too. So thank you so much for showing up and doing such a great job. And I just want to say thanks to everyone for a super fun meeting. And back to you, Acting Mr. President David Parr.
Well, I'm not acting president, but I'm presiding.
Oh,
over the two.
President
that's
of the day. President of the day.
lingo we got to get in there. You know, it has been a great meeting. However, the agenda for next meeting is